Okay, guys, as we have reached, reached the end of this bootcamp, and today and tomorrow we will see the Postman API testing, plus how we can use ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, in our day-to-day life in QA, and how it will affect us, our jobs, our performance, our excellence. Then we will see with that alongside with that, then we will see if time permit us, we will see the Jenkins theory also. So uh, we have little bit of theory today, because first you need to understand that why we are using Postman API. Yes, please. Okay, mic was unmuted there. Okay. Before starting with the Postman API testing, we need to understand the logic, the theory behind that. That what is used for, why people are using Postman API testing. Okay, if we have Selenium, so why they're using that? So we will understand everything, guys. All of you have seen internet is rich of content. Now the data that you're getting from the internet is actually passing through the APIs from the backend servers, and it presented into the front end. Now, what is front end? What is back end? Let's discuss this. For example, this is my what? This is my screen, computer screen. Think like this. This is my computer screen, and I'm browsing Amazon Web Services, eBay services. I'm browsing these things inside that. Now, whatever data is on the screen and it is displaying for me, like here we have this kind of things, the data that we have in here, how they represent. First of all, the term for that we are using is UI, user interface. What is user interface? Anything which you can see on the screen is UI, user interface. And another synonym for that is front end. Front end. Basically, this front end is made up of different technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's another dynamic language for web. Like people nowadays are using framework of libraries of React, Angular framework, like they're using Next.js framework. These are the powerful frameworks that people are using nowadays for the UI, and as well as for designing, we have Bootstrap and Tailwind CSS. Tailwind CSS. These are the library or frameworks and languages that are made for what? For making create for the creation of a front end, for the creation of a UI, user interface. Now, how this data is presented in front of us on the web page. In between, we have what? We have a server. Now, what is server? Server is a supercomputer. From its name, it is obvious that it is serving. It is not like a laptop of what 16 GB RAM or 32 GB graphics. It's not like this. It's a massive computer that might have, like, let's say, 10,000 GB RAM. This is the very basic server that has 10,000. The minimum RAM which has is 10,000 GB RAM. Let's say 1 lakh GB hard drive HDD for storage and other important functionality in hardware which is needed for the server. In these server are 24 into 7 is online and giving us services. For example, you have heard about AWS, you have heard about Heroku, you have heard about Hostinger. These are the websites that you can purchase a space on the internet and you can put your website for making it online. Actually, purchasing those storage there is that they have server in some countries. Now, whenever you're purchasing it through their website, they are actually allocating a space in their server. Like I'm purchasing 200 GB as storage for my website. So what they will do, the moment I pay, they will allocate 200 GB space in their server for me, and they will give me a RAM of approximately, let's say, bandwidth of 24 GB or 16 GB. It totally depends on me that how much I can buy. It is serving now the business logic that actually represents that in which format, through which format, how we can represent data is inside the stored inside the server. Now this part is called backend. It is backend. You can see it is the internal process in here. So the languages which they are using for that is actually Java, Python. These are different languages that are people nowadays using for backend. Let's say C Sharp, Ruby, and etc. And there are many frameworks that I can take name of Spring Boot for Java, which is very powerful. And let's say Django for Python. These are the frameworks that are people building the websites and ERP systems inside that. Now, next we have what? Next we have database. Now, what is database? This is the actual main part of the system because the data which is presented in here, actually, it is coming from the databases. Because if you don't have a stored information, how you can display it on the web browser? These are will be done by who? By the DB. These are will be controlled by the DB. Now, the language that we are using for databases is SQL, MySQL, Oracle, PLSQL. These are different languages in the internet for that. MongoDB and etc. These are the languages that people are using it for interacting with the databases. Now, how the interaction will be made? The request first, when the user is clicking, suppose you're an Amazon web page and you're clicking it on the buy now button. Click on buy now button. On buy now button. Now what will happen? A request will be generated and this request will go to server. This will be HTTPS request. Now, whenever the request goes to server in here will process the logic that actually what the user wants from the system. The moment that this business logic understand that, okay, he need to purchase, he will do what? He will go to the database, get the data information of the user from the system, and the database will respond back to who? To server. Will give the data to server, and after that, the server will do what? The server will send the request response back. Now in here, you're doing the request, and here the response will come into HTTPS format. This is the procedure that the system are following. You have UI, you have backend server, and you have databases that are actually interacting. And these through web application is made up of web app is made up of these general components. I hope you understand the concept of front-end UI, the concept of a back-end server, and the concept of the database. Now, let's clear that why people are using Postman API. If you have the word, let me don't save it. Suppose, for example, if you have the UI in front of you, you can do it. You can do the testing. You have the UI. You can do the testing with what technology and tools? With Selenium. We can do testing with Selenium. It's the tool actually that give us the ability to test this UI of the software. Now, in case if you don't have this UI, what will happen? In a project company, in a software company, projects are always, before designing their UI, they will do what? They will do some sort of coding before, like they will create the databases. They will create the databases before the UI, and they will write some business logic, some business logic beforehand before they start the UI. Because these sorts of things are a little bit important in software company in one project. They want to analyze the data, that what kind of data is coming for us, how we should store these data, and which particular technology we have to select for that. These sorts of things will be executing before the creation of a UI. Now what happened? If there is no UI present, so you need to send a request to server. This clicking on the button in the UI part, which you can see like we are clicking on the Amazon mobile, over on the access and mobile. These sorts are now we are doing manually. But if this UI were not present, if this UI is not present, what will happen? Instead of that, these requests in these everything clicking will be done by who? By Postman. Postman. What is Postman? It's a tool that tests the backend for us. It will send APIs and exchange information in between UI server and DB. Now, what is API? Let's understand this also. Then we will go a little bit deeper on Postman. What is API? Suppose think like this. You're living in a location. Let's say like this. Let me clean this. Suppose you're living in Virginia. Now you want to travel from Virginia to where? CA, California. Now this travel, how you will make this travel? You will go from California to Virginia. There is a lots of way. You can take plane, you can take bus, you can go by car, you can try a lots of way. There is a train also. We have train option. There are a lots of way that you can travel. Now let's suppose you take what? You take bus. You will go with bus from Virginia to California. You're traveling with bus. Now this traveling, you come and sit in the bus and you will travel all the way to where? To California. Now this bus is what? This bus is an API for you. This is a real life. Full form of API is application programming interface. Mostly people are using for what this API? Mostly people are using it for the exchange of information. For the exchange of information between servers, between US, between databases are using. Now you can travel with the bus from Virginia to California. Now this bus is what? This bus is API. And what is data? Actually, you are the actual data inside this bus that you can travel from Virginia to where? To California. Yeah. Now what is next, guys? This were about what? This were about APIs that we have understand. Now next, what we have? Next, let's see that uh, how this concept of API was generated, why people use that, used to create, and who was the first one company who created this API. Let's talk about this. Let me clean this board. Let's say don't save. Now let's talk about this. We have lots of tool for API testing in the market. We have lots of tools in the market. Like let's say, for example, first tool is we have what? We have Postman, which is very famous and very powerful. Postman API testing tool. Second, we have what? Ready API. Next tool, we can say we have REST assured API. These are the tools that you can do the testing on the API on top of that. Now, what are among these? Why we are studying? Why we are studying the what? We are studying the Postman because Postman is powerful. It is very useful. It has a lots of functionality. It has better UI experience. So that's why companies are always selecting this Postman for the testing. This was about the tool. Now let's talk about that how many ways that we can create the API. We have two ways for the API creation, guys. Ways to create API. How many ways we have? There's two ways. First way that we can go with SOAP API. Another way is REST API. Now, SOAP full form is stand for Simple Object Access what? Protocol. Now, what is this? REST stand for? REST stand for representational state transfer. Why we have two ways to create these APIs and why we are using this two-way? Let's see. In year of 1998, when the internet was going fast, Microsoft company created the SOAP API for the exchange of the financial data on the internet side. Like people were started buying and purchasing through their credit cards on that 1998, and especially Microsoft itself was doing some kind of like information exchanging, like they had an exchange server for that also. So for that reason they created the SOAP API. Why they created the SOAP API? Because SOAP API is very secure. Very secure. But it has one defect. It was very slow. It was very secure, and it was alongside with that it was very slow at that time. What will happen that it needs lots of internet bandwidth so that you can transfer one financial like your payment, you want to purchase something on the internet, you want to do what, you will use SOAP API for that. And if you see, whenever you put your card, the process of purchasing is little bit taking time. Why? Because even you have a 5G speed internet, your Wi-Fi bandwidth is more than 100 MB, then why it is taking a lots of time? That's why it is SOAP API is very heavy, and it takes a lots of time. This is the perform. It has a performance issue, but it is very secure. But after that, in 2000 years, one PhD student came study the SOAP API. He find out the problem with the SOAP API speed. He create a REST API. He submitted the documents to the committee that, hey, I introduced SOAP API for what? For the transfer exchange of the data. At that time, it was very fast. Nowadays, also it's very fast, but it is not secure. It has one defect, that not secure. What people decide is what they decide is that they actually tell that let's do. We will use always SOAP API if there is a bank or money transfer on the internet. Money transfer. If there is purchasing something on the internet, we will use SOAP API. If there is displaying or transferring the states from let's say someone post on the internet, someone is passing comments on the Facebook page, someone is sharing, these sorts of things will be handled by REST API. And in case if someone is going to do some payment on the Facebook marketplace, then they will use SOAP API. Now you understand SOAP APIs, or people are using it for what? For transferring money on the website. They will use transferring money on web, and rest people are using it for displaying, deleting, reading informations. This is the biggest difference between SOAP API and what, guys? And REST API that we have. Now, till this point, do we have any question, guys? Is there any point which is confusing for you in between SOAP API and REST API which you don't understand?
No, sir, it's been clear.
Okay, that's good. That's great. Yeah, definitely. Pharaohs like Western Union. Western Union is actually no. If you do some card payment, yeah, that you're transferring to account of Western Union something through your account, through your MasterCard, then there will be concept of a SOAP API on the internet, that your data will be transferred through SOAP API. But if you want to scroll up the web page of Western Union and you're seeing the data it's displaying on the page, so that is REST API. We can say like this: 70% of the internet is using REST API, just 30% of the internet is using SOAP API. Internet is made up of these two things. Web applications are exchanging information through these two APIs between each other. I hope you understand this. Now let's clear this. Okay. What is next about this is, let's say, okay. Now we have what? We have this Postman. Postman API. Now, this Postman is testing what kind of API? There might be question arises in your mind. Postman is, we are using it. We are using.
یک ثانیه تو هنگ میکنه صفحهش چی نشان نمیده باز پس دوباره چی میشه
Marina, do you have a question?
No, sorry, mistakenly.
You're using it for what? For testing REST APIs. Now what will happen? That we will be testing the 70% of the data which is passing through the internet. We are not going to test the SOAP API because there is lots of less company who is working on what? On SOAP API. Why? Because the companies which they are working with the SOAP API is MasterCard, some companies which do that, which they have deals with the financial transactions, and we can say banks. That banks are also in some specific parts of banks which they want to do the testing with the SOAP API, but mostly people are testing it with Postman, which is the REST API. The SOAP API is because it's secure and you don't have to do a lots of testing on that. So that's why people are using Postman API for the testing. Now we have also tools for testing this SOAP API. Like a Postman, we have also SOAP UI tool, which is available on the internet. And whenever there is a term called that you're doing testing on SOAP API, so you will do what? You will use that SOAP API tool for the testing of the transactions and any extra things. Now these are done without the UI. This Postman will actually do the work of UI, and it will transfer the data for you. It will fetch the data. It will see that whenever you click on that, the request is sent, the request is coming back, what kind of data is generated. You will see everything in here. But before starting that, we have one another concept that we need to understand that also. This is very important. We have 4 basic operation. We have 4 basic operation in API testing. Now this operation are get. What is get used for, guys? Get is actually used for, let's say, reading something, deleting something, reading, sending, and existing resources. Let's say, I can say that you're reading something on the internet. Let's say there is a blog post on the internet. You search through some blogs, and you see and you want to read the blogs, you get the information. These are handled by the GET request. This is actually the operations or request. And let's say another thing, something which is exist resources. The resources exist on the internet, and you try to read that in front of in the display screen. So this operation is called the get operation. Next operation that you have is post. What is this post, guys, mean? Let's say post means that you want to upload some information on the internet. You want to post your picture on the Facebook. You want to upload your pictures on the Instagram. Let's say you're using LinkedIn and you're updating your information. These all sort of information which you are passing and you're storing your data in those web applications is called the post way method. Now, let's say we can do updating. What? Updating an exist what? Source on the internet. Now we have next what? Next operation is put operation. Now what is this put operation? Put operation, sorry, there is a mistake. It will create. The term I need to mention in here, it's creating a post on exist resources that we can say, or you can do perhaps, let's say, a new resources, that because you're uploading new pictures, you're uploading new blog information, these sorts of things will be there. Put is the reverse. Like you upload your picture on the Facebook, and you have write some captions, some extra informations with that picture, and now you see that, okay, here I have a spelling mistake. So what you're gonna do, you will edit that. That editing is again what? Putting operation. Put means updating the exist resource. This was for put. Now last is delete. Delete is nothing. You understand, for what? For destroying or for deleting your information from the internet that people are using it. These four operations we are basically using with what? With the Postman API testing. We will read the data with get operation. We will create a new data with the post operation. We will update an existing data with the put operation, and we will delete the data with the delete operation. These are the four operations that we have in the Postman API. Abdul, GitHub and Git push is a different concept. That is not GET, that's GIT. GIT, GitHub, it's a repository that you're storing your codes inside that. If you're talking about that, you're pushing your data there, you're creating repositories, yeah, we can get the concept and apply it in here. Anything that you're going through the GitHub and you're seeing the projects, this is called the Git option. Git means you're reading the source code from the GitHub. If you're uploading, pushing your code into the GitHub repository, that's called post operation. And if you're updating that code again, you push some another code and you bring some changes on the project and you repush it again. This is called put operation. And if you want to delete that, you can do the deletion with the delete operation. That's all for these Postman API testing that we have. I hope that you understand well and you don't have any question. But still, if there is a question, the mic is open, you can ask. Okay, no question. That's great. Now let's go to browser and let's search for Postman API testing. Now, when you go to browser, just in your Internet Explorer, write down Postman download. Just hit the enter. The first website which comes to you is the Postman. Just you can click on download Postman. It has an icon with the orange color. I'll click on this. When I click on this, you can see you will have a UI interface like this. Download Postman. It is the official website for downloading the Postman app. From here, it has a Windows 64 bit. You can click on this and your download will be started. Now, when you download it, double click on that. When you install the application, the installation process is very easy, like you do the other installation. So we will do that tomorrow. I will download it. I have it already in my computer. So we will download that and we will install it tomorrow and we will use it in tomorrow class. Now we are done for today's session. I will stop in here and I will do what? Let me stop this recording also.